Welcome to the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcast, please follow, hit the like button, or any subscribes. It really helps us with the algorithms. Santa Cruz Coffee Break is produced by the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum. All opinions are those of the speakers. We invite you to join us on the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF for more fun. Now, let's get on with this installment of Santa Cruz Coffee Break.
Legend, and he lives up to every note of it. He is it's just kind of one of those constant practicer guys. Like times I've traveled with him before, we did stuff a few years ago, and we're sitting around the airport, and it's not long before he's sitting there doing stuff, working with his feet and his arms, and just coming up with little grooves of how he's all working together, because like his feet, he has to be like extra on top of that, and so he is just true percussionist who never stops practicing. And it's just like all of us other musicians, it's like we just talent is just working on it and loving the actual work of your instrument every day. So yeah, he makes it easy.
You guys do it's a really great combination when we get to see Tad just disappeared in the background there. Now he's coming back. Nope, he's over there doing something. Look, he's really small. You also are a band leader for La Palma School.
Yes, yeah, I've been the director of bands there, for full time. It's been 7 years, and but I was there a couple years before, just doing one class, and so in total, it's been 9 years I've been there.
And they're okay with you taking 8 days off to go be famous?
It's they are super supportive. The principal there, David Sullivan, is super cool. It's definitely this one, I had to kind of finagle a little bit to get time off, and so they've been really flexible with me in the past and coming up here in the future. I'm not sure how it's going to go going forward. So I don't know, like get all like too personal or something, but yeah, I think I'm not sure how it'll go next year.
So
for this, so
is that what you put on the leave request, that you actually need to go out and be famous?
That's right. Yeah. Cover my classes. I'm going to go out and
Maybe you should promise to wear their T-shirt at every gig.
That's right. Promote the school. Yeah, it's a tricky thing to balance it all. And I know I've just gotten, you're saying it's like the YouTube thing, I did a few videos throughout the pandemic, and finally got to have a little extra, the silver lining, have a little time to do some projects I wanted, but a lot of stuff has been on the back burner pretty much conspicuously for the last 9 years. All these different directions I was had planned and going, and so it's definitely not ideal. My little joke is that I'm not juggling anymore. I'm just deciding which ball to drop. It's just and that goes for everything too, not just am I an educator, am I a musician, am I it's like all these things. I'm with just my wife, spending time with her, my kids, my brother who's actually visiting now, but he lives up in Seattle. I know if I answer the phone and we talk, we're going to be on the phone for 3 hours. And so sometimes it's like, all right, am I going to be a good brother but not practice for 3 hours? Or am I going to be a good, musician and ignore like my kids? Or it's a negative way to look at things maybe, but I've kind of just gotten, the busier I've gotten, it's sort of forced me to, prioritize the immediate need,
As they say, life is what happens while you're making other plans.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so much. Yeah. Like even, just stuff popping up all the time.
I think that's pretty common in the music world with people that know what they're doing and are easy to work with. They get in demand.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's funny, the whole stereotype of the the lazy musician, or I love my fans. You're the reason I get out of bed at noon every day. It's like just all the stuff, stereotypes like that. It's like people, the musicians I know, it's like just nuts. Like Tammy Brown is in this project with Lauren Monroe, and we're always talking about, it's like, okay, looking at our calendars, I have 1 day off in 43 days. Oh yeah, I have, it's just like, it just gets ridiculous. And yeah, because you're trying to kind of cobble together a life, out of all this stuff. And so, um, there's just a whole balance. If you say no enough times to somebody you want to work with, you're going to be the guy who said no, and then they'll search elsewhere. Or if you take on too much and say yes, then your quality of your output's going to go down a little bit, and so then you're chipping away at your reputation. So yeah, it's just always this little balancing act of and yeah, I've noticed that too, just getting that just total fatigue. And but
Let's jump back to the beginning for a minute. What got you started as a musician? How did it all begin for you?
it's funny, I've realized more. I started earlier than I thought. I used to kind of feel like I started playing guitar when I was about 12, 13 years old, and from there, but I realized probably back in, geez, what was it now? I just learned in '85, the Casio SK1 keyboard came out, and somehow I ended up with one when I was about 10, and I guess that was, and always back in the era of cassettes, which are kind of funny. They're coming back now. I have this little project where I'm making little cassettes for it even now, and I have like, dubbing stuff. But I sort of was one of those kids who just had all these little tape decks, and I was always repairing stuff or taking stuff apart. So I'd always be like, if a tape broke, I would unscrew it and tape it back and make all, and so I had like this little sampling keyboard and these tape decks and some little microphones, and my brother and I used to make these little like radio shows, and I was kind of like the sound designer. So I would get, they open the door, they walk into a restaurant. So I would sample myself, so, watermelon, 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 and you push enough keys, and it all of a sudden sounds like there's a chatter, indistinct chatter. So I look back and go, okay, that was kind of and now I'm teaching an audio production class, and I'm sort of thinking back, going, okay, I actually was sort of doing like editing and sound designing, and, through really crude ways. And you tape something on a tape deck, play it back, record something on another tape deck, and then you can overdub that way without multi-tracking, and so I kind of went from there. My grandmother played piano, and actually she doesn't play much now. She's still around. She's 103. And she was kind of like our friend, my childhood friend Dane Kai. She played every instrument. She went to Fresno State as a music major and got a degree in music education. So she played like clarinet, alto saxophone, oboe. She was in like an all-girls dance band playing saxophone.
Wow.
She marched across the Golden State Bridge when it opened with the Fresno State Marching Band. So 103 years old now.
So were your first music lessons from your grandmother?
Yeah, and remembering back too, I used to go. She lived next door to us. I grew up out in Hollister, so we were way out in the country, Santa Ana Valley, and I would go next door and ask her to play The Entertainer for me like every day. So she had the sheet music on her piano, and Grandma played it, and she would do the stride thing, and she had these long fingernails, and I remember they would click on the keys. So I always remember this like just kind of vivid memory of that, like that clicking sound and that ragtime kind of thing. And then I would noodle around on her piano a little bit too. And I always knew that she was a musician and a multi-instrumentalist. And then her husband, my grandfather, he passed away when I was like 2, but he played tuba and French horn, and they met in the Fresno band when they went to college together in Fresno. So
they say band romances never last.
That's right. Yeah, pretty classic. He was in the military too, and he, in World War II and stuff and everything. But he was a badass. But so she was a big inspiration. And then also my brother, who I mentioned, he's 2 years older than me. He, and still continues to this day, he has a, he's not a musician, he's an artist and a book designer, but he has a voracious music appetite. So he was the first guy when I really properly got started. He, I think, gave me a, talking about, again, the age of cassettes. I had a cassette. He would give me kind of all his stuff that he already consumed. So I had a Jimi Hendrix Smash Hits, compilation tape. And I remember, and I was a lefty, so I played backwards. And I remember him telling me, it's like, oh, Jimi Hendrix was a lefty too, and it's kind of just made me go like, oh, I could play guitar too then, just as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old. So that, and my grandmother gave me my first guitar, little nylon string guitar. And actually, I really remember Dayan was kind of there when I first started. My brother wanted to play guitar. And I remember Dayan coming over to our house, and I didn't even play yet or even want to play. And he was teaching my brother a guitar lesson. And I remember, what did he have? He might have had, forget if he had like a 12-string guitar or something, but I remember Dane just like tuning the guitar all up super quick, with his perfect pitch, and giving my brother a lesson. And then I sort of, even then I kind of was like, that's what I'm going to do. Like my brother's going to do it. I'm going to copy him, but I think I'm going to stick with this. And so from that point, yeah, I sort of just would always, be influenced by my older brother. So yeah, about 12, 13, I started taking guitar lessons down at the local music shop in Hollister. And it wasn't long before the store owner passed me on to okay, I can't teach you anymore. And I got to study with this guy, Ed DeGroot, who he's still playing at the San Juan Mission, which I guess is like the mission that has the longest continuous service that they've had services or whatever, like every Sunday. So this guy plays organ, another kind of multi-instrumental guy, played everything, accordion, bass, guitar. So I got to study with this guy, Ed DeGroot, who was just an amazing teacher. The first song he taught me was Take 5. Like Brubeck. It was like, okay, this is not like he just knew he'd just throw something really hard at me. Yeah, and then from guitar, I thought, okay, I'll be a guitar player. And then I had the bright idea to, have these jam sessions at my house and host. And when we're young, nobody's driving. So I thought I should get a backline at my little jam room at my place. My parents were super supportive. I had a little jam room. And so I bought a drum set, and I bought an electric bass, and I had some stuff set up. And so my idea was, people could come over and I could play guitar, and they would back me up, and I would sing and play guitar. And then it wasn't long before I was the guy with the bass. And then that you're pretty much guaranteed that if you own a bass and you can, play halfway decent, you're the bass player now. And that's kind of what happened a little bit, especially, starting with our band Water back in the mid 90s, with Dayan and Art Alm and our whole, kind of first iteration. It was kind of like I wanted to be involved somehow, and I had a van, where I could haul gear and stuff. So the class,
you're setting yourself up.
Classic, yeah. Yeah. Don't get
I got a bass and I got a van.
I think that the last thing would be I have a PA.
That's right. And they say they don't get good at something you don't like to do. Yeah, so that was, it's like, okay, well, Steve, Art plays piano, Dane can play bass, but he's going to play, guitar or sing or play a wind instrument or all his, multi-talented things. So it's like, we need a bass player, and you have a bass, and so it was a really good influence on me. And I first was on electric. They kind of influenced me. We went to, we were all at Cabrillo back in the day there, 93 through 97. Our saying, yeah, we went forever. I was still at the Brill was our saying. That music program, for all it was worth, they had amazing, still, it's one of the best around, and so we did, before I even really knew I was end up playing jazz and Latin jazz, I took Mike Strunk's Latin jazz ensemble class, and I was just so green, then, but I remember bringing my bass, and kind of that was kind of the beginning of that. And then it wasn't long then before you know, jazz circles, upright bass was the thing to have. And then a lot of the, that was Americana and stuff seemed like it was just starting to kind of really pick up steam. And Laura Ellen at K-Pig, it was sort of this like coalescing kind of vision there in the early mid 90s. And a lot of the roots music and the acoustic thing. And it really kind of, just took off from there. And once I got the upright bass, that was, then you're really working every day and you're going for 43 days straight.
So it sounds like your plan kind of from the beginning was to be a professional musician.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. And I still, had, like every kid who gets a guitar and learns to, goes to a party and impresses a girl with singing a song is like, you think, of course, there's like Mozart, Jimi Hendrix, me. And then, like you just think odd and it's
natural progression. Yeah.
the ego of it. And especially being teamed up with Dayan, of course we kind of thought, we're going to have a band and just be like, everything's just going to rock it up and it's going to be this thing. But, so we, and still to this day, things are still, could go in these directions of really getting to share music and on a higher level. But the blue collar musician side of it, in the trenches, so to speak, I always had, there's sort of been two sides to me that way, where I want to be original and be an artist and make an impact and spread love is really my main goal overall, whether it's as a hired gun or as an original artist. But I always kind of had a romanticization of like paying your dues, going in the trenches, and really just having like legit music skills. And that was kind of, we had that kind of vision with Water too. Was almost kind of like, the band. It's like, we're a band. We have songs, but we can also be a band for hire. So Art Alm and Dayan kind of had this vision too. And actually, in a way, that's what really, led us playing with Keith Greninger. Was like, hey, he sort of had us in the first days. It was like we were added on as a band. Like, I'm going to have this backup band that's a band. And it was pretty cool. It was a really good idea, in a way, because we had the best of both worlds. Dane had his songs and we'd do that and share stuff with Keith. And then we would back up Keith as well. And it was, it was a really good experience. But I've kind of had that kind of thing too. Like, I've always wanted to learn, reading music theory, learning to play, like learning songs fast, playing in any, anyone's band. I want to try to be able to hang any style. And in a way, now that I look back, you're asking about advice. I now look back and I realize what a valuable thing that was that I went through. But at the same time, it's kind of the hack of all trades thing a little bit, where sometimes, like, I'll tell young musicians, or that, they're maybe if they're deciding like, it's like, I'm doing all these cover bands, am I going to just be a jukebox in 10 years? Or maybe I should focus on my original music. And I definitely would say that would be an advice thing. The unsolicited advice would be, definitely find what you love the most and maybe kind of stick with it when you have the luxury of being a young kid and you can be in a van and tour and you don't have to have, life make you prioritize everything. That would be maybe something that I maybe would have done a little bit differently, because in the early days, I basically said yes to anything. And so, I ended up doing, gigs that were good experience, and I always have fun no matter what I'm playing. But sometimes I kind of go like, oh man, I could have been, if I would have sort of focused a little bit more, maybe I could have really figured out, okay, I want to do this, and this style. And then sort of, you can't do the gigs you want until you say no to the gigs you don't want, is our saying. And so I think for a long time, I was just basically building up experience and paying my dues. And it was amazing. And I learned so much. And now it's shaped me to be, pretty versatile and valuable as a musician. But I could see that I was sort of rudderless. And it was a while before I really kind of started going like, I want to do this style more. So maybe I should say no to that style and go to this style, or just maybe I shouldn't try to play guitar, mandolin, banjo, and bass, and like maybe I'll just focus on bass for a little while so that I can really, I was kind of like the utility guy for a while on stuff, which was really good because I was able to hold on to gigs, and if personnel shifted around, it's like, all right, now Steve, you're on cello and mandolin now, and oh, you play guitar too. Bring your Princeton reverb and your Strat, and it's like all these. So it's a blessing, and it's been really cool. But yeah, I think focusing a little more,
I think
that you can take one thing a little farther than a bunch of things, kind of.
it kind of comes with age. That really does. And you said it. It comes with age and experience. And
Mhm.
you had all these experiences. Well, your experience was different than the young kid who goes out on tours with the band, and they spend 18 months in the van, and they break. They get someplace. But you've gotten to it really. I think it's just fascinating. We did a podcast with Tim Connell, and now I'm studying with Tim on mandolin.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's great.
Yeah, and he's taken me completely back to the roots. Learn to read music, learn this, learn that, learn this, do, and it's really fantastic. But what he really likes to do is teach in school,
Uh-huh.
and he's structured the lessons around like being a school teacher. And yet, here's this guy that's been all around the world with, a million people,
He's awesome.
and didn't start on mandolin, graduated with a penny whistle degree.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Celtic, kind of Celtic thing.
Celtic, yeah.
It's so beautiful.
From Berkeley. But I think the experiences just come different places at different ways and different times. I mean, you played Monterey Jazz Festival. A lot of people would pretty much think that's the top of the heap.
Yeah.
It's an amazing festival. Yeah, no, and I think too, that's one of those ones where it's like the longest continuously running festival. Not the oldest one, but one of the longest continuing festivals that's, been around. And yeah, that definitely, you feel like, yeah, when you're young, there's going to be like a moment where you'll just feel like, now I'm a badass, or whatever. And it's like, I realize that, yeah, you never feel that way. You always kind of, or for me, I have, part of my journey, I think too, is it's taken me a while to kind of build up that, like, from being so much off balance all the time, I've almost gotten more used to being off balance than feeling solid and confident. And even now I'm really feeling more powerful than I ever have. But playing the Monterey Jazz Festival did kind of become one of those moments. I did it a few times. The one that really stuck with me was the last time, maybe now it was 3-4 years ago, with Andy Weiss and the Monterey, what was it called? Monterey Bay Jazz All-Stars. And that, I definitely felt like, okay, like he's asking, like, first of all, when he, and I've talked with Andy about this too, and he's great, like psychological music stuff too. He's such a wise musician. Like, well, first of all, like, I asked you because I knew you could do it. So it wasn't like asking and then you had to prove it. He was like, okay, you knew I could hang. And that definitely kind of solidified me to feel a little more like, okay, like it's all these little decisions too with the band director job. I think at a certain point, and it's been kind of divided. Like I said, I think next year, I'm not sure I'll be returning there. I might do like maybe 1 or 2 classes, because I want to sort of be in this Lauren Monroe thing. We're going to travel a little bit, and it's sort of not going to be conducive to both things. But I sort of had this thing where I was like, when I kind of like reinvented my whole thing. 2005, I moved to Monterey and decided to finish my bachelor's degree. I knew Ray Drummond, a really prominent jazz bass player, was teaching there, and I always kind of thought that, like, it was like the Luke, like, you must complete the training. Like I just was like, you got to go back. Ray Drummond is right here. I dropped out of school when I started touring with Keith and Dane, and I felt like I'm already paying my rent. I'm doing gigs. I don't need to, so I kind of left school. I finally decided to sort of reinvent everything and came back to Monterey in 2005 and study with Ray and sort of complete that thing. So I had, it sort of wanted, felt like I'd played some jazz, but I never really, kind of taken it to that next level there. So that was, kind of this whole part of my life where I was just reestablishing everything. And I even like musically too, I don't know, look back now, I was like, God, I probably shot myself in the foot a little bit. I had this sort of thing, what was that Jerry Seinfeld thing where he talked about is like sometimes he would throw away all his old jokes and then he would have to come up with all new ones. And, it was this big challenging. So I thought, I'm going to not play any of my licks that I worked up. So I sort of moved to Monterey, didn't really know a lot of people. And then I was like, all this thing I've been building up, I'm going to just not do any of it. So none of my little licks and patterns. And he sort of reconceptualized the whole way that I was kind of playing jazz. And so it's really almost like, your legs, you broke and it healed, but we need to re-break it and reset it straight now. Like, so it was like this painful thing where I first moved to Monterey and I was really not playing kind of as good as I probably could have if I would have sort of relied on my old crutches of music survival. And so I was, kind of working my way up really from the bottom. And so sometimes, I do some gig, it was like, okay, we're going to go and, busk here and you'll get like $15, or we're going to do this, or maybe play with people who weren't like the best people. And then I'd kind of come away and be like, God, okay, so that's going to be my gig, and I sort of got this weird decision where it was like, it's like this, too much time, overthinking stuff. It's like, am I really meant to be a musician? Am I really, this and that? And then when I got the band director job, it was a little bit like, I got a little bit scared where I realized I could do this whole job teaching all these kids music day after day, and I could not play one note. I could just tell them, hey, you're doing this, play it, do that note or whatever. And I could just let my complete music thing just completely slide for my own performance. And that year doing that with Andy Weiss for the Monterey Jazz All-Stars definitely kind of made me sort of go like, no, I've sort of played, it would be stupid. And of course it would like crush my soul and everything too. But it was like, it just wouldn't be intelligent to sort of be like, yeah, I'm not at a level where it's like, I'm either going to be like a really good performer, or I'm just going to like not try to constantly be gigging and not quite being up to snuff. And it's sort of this painful experience if you're always like, trying, but not like succeeding, and so that definitely was one time where I really actually felt like the set was over and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I guess I'm meant to like perform, and I love teaching too. It is, it's a separate gift from performing. Some people have both. Some people have one or the other. Not everybody, some amazing players suck at teaching. They just have no patience or they can't explain it or, and I do believe like the modern musician, I kind of got this from, what's his name? Michael Davis. He has a podcast called Hip Bone Music. He's a trombone player. He plays with the Rolling Stones and stuff, and he's just done all this like, heavy stuff with all the heaviest cats. But he runs a podcast and have all these top-notch classical musicians and symphony players, jazz players like Randy Brecker and like all these classical jazz world people. And the one common thread I sort of got was, the modern musician has to kind of do three things: perform, write music, and teach. And even if you're, not even writing original music and releasing albums, but maybe you're writing some exercises or writing a student piece for your band, or like I've written a lot of arrangements for my jazz ensemble class that I teach, where I know like these are the guys I have in the band. I'm going to write for them. So I really do like, you got to have that tripod, you know, so it's not that I wouldn't teach, but just that I would not give up performing to just be a teacher. And in some ways there again is dropping the ball, where doing, you know, the band director job definitely made it, it's like kind of burning candle at both ends. So I know it's made me like have times where I practiced less, or I've eaten a couple, you know, lost opportunities where, you know, I've learned now to sort of under promise and over deliver. But definitely the early days where I just would try to do, you know, oh, this is a neat new opportunity, and then say yes, and then maybe be overwhelmed. And not happening often, but, you know, when it happens once, it's too many.
Well, it sounds like you've built a really solid foundation for moving forward on. I mean, essentially, with all this experience and background behind you, you're getting closer to being able to choose the direction you want to go, simply because you have this solid foundation in so many areas. And I think that's one of the things a lot of musicians lack, is they'll work so hard in one specific direction that, you know, they don't have the breadth of capability or understanding even, as to what their limitations might be. And that can really trip people up.
Yeah, no, you are. Yeah, that is right on the money. Yeah, definitely. And in fact, and that's kind of that thing, you know, what's it called? The Dunning-Kruger effect. Is that what that is? My friend Stu Reynolds calls it the competence to confidence ratio. Like you said, you know, you realize what you don't know. And I think that's what makes, you know, when you're a young kid and you learn a few chords, it's like, I can play one AC/DC song. That's it. I'm going to be a rock star. It's all, you know. Then you realize, yeah, the more you go, that you realize what you don't know.
You bring up a question that we're just started. What song would you not be able to play in Guitar Center? What's the one song that you would absolutely not play in Guitar Center?
Oh my God, I don't know. I don't know. So like the opening riff to Sweet Child of Mine or something.
There you are. Okay. you can run with that. I want to ask you about. We're in Steve's music shed, and we're out behind his house, and here's the shed, and you see the saw on the wall, and you see this is all music related. But as a stand-up bassist, I know that stand-up is one of the hardest things in the world to amplify.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you do it?
Okay, so how long is the podcast?
Oh yeah, no, I know that it is an art form, and it's something that you probably have modified and tweaked and added this or something like that. But you put a pickup on a stand-up.
Sure. Yeah. No,
you're a badass.
Yeah, I've had a long kind of a little bit nuts on my journey, and I've been really lucky. You know, obviously, you know, we're talking about Santa Cruz guitars and just what a wonderful, rich community like Santa Cruz is. And then we also have Rick Turner there with Renaissance, and so he has a bass pickup that it's like his design. Actually, this one's in the case right here. I sort of have just two upright basses. I should have got that one out, but
two upright basses.
Yeah, I have two. I know, my little tiny little shed here. It's like if I played anything else, it would be way better. But yeah, so I have this sort of little bass. It's a regular basses most people play are 3/4 size. Unless you're a really tall guy, you might play a full size. Or if you really want that extra little bit of air, which doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's gonna be louder. Sometimes the shape of the bass really, and the way it projects and how much air it can push out of the F holes. So I have this 3/4 bass that's kind of set up to sort of play. I can play with no amp on it, but I have this other one that's a half size upright bass. I call it my electric upright bass. So I had, kind of early days, just classic, you know, frustrations. You get I got like a Fishman that like clips on the bridge. So you're automatically killing your acoustic sound because you're clipping the bridge. And then of course it's just does not amplify very well. You're going to deal with, once you go past a certain volume, you're getting feedback. If the stage volume's too loud, it's going into the F holes. It's making the whole body vibrate. And it's kind of that, funny, in my audio production class, we just did a whole kind of intro to miking guitar amps, and the kind of just the very basic, like, close mic and then one ambient mic. You can have an amplifier, stories of like whatever, Jimmy Page putting an amp in a hallway and miking it like that. But we looked at the whole history of Les Paul and how he invented the electric guitar, where it was like the steel railroad tie, and then like basically it was kind of like a big 4x4 with those hollow body kind of sides that clipped onto it, or like went on. And it was just sort of that realization of like, you want something, if you want to be loud, and be at certain higher volumes, you want something that is like a solid body that will not actually vibrate. The whole thing with an electric guitar is it's a hunk of wood. Like acoustic guitar, yeah, that flat top is just like, breathing, and everything you do on it is like part of that sort of organism, or, of the guitar, right? It's kind of all like alive or something. But so then the electric guitar, it's like you're dampening it down so that you can then have the magnetic pickup, and then it's not going to just create all that problematic feedback and stuff. So an upright bass being what it is, it's designed to be sympathetic and just anything. So if you're next to like a guitar player's amp, or if you're next to anything, so, but the more you dampens that down, then it's going to just sound like crap. Like, because the cool thing about the upright bass is it has that growl and it has that acoustic side to it. And so I think when I sort of did this whole journey, which is pretty uncommon, I think, of kind of what I went through, yeah, I sort of wanted, I was thinking I should just get an electric upright bass, because that's what, if you want to be loud, especially like all the Latin jazz guys, they have those baby basses, and it's like, you just need to have that punchy sound. And I just kind of knew I wouldn't like it. I mean, I love electric guitar. I love playing electric bass, but I've always drawn more to acoustic side of everything. I just love, my second guitar I got was like a 12 string, and I play mandolin too, and I've always been fascinated with just different acoustic, instruments like that. So I didn't want to do that. So basically it was kind of Matt Bone, the bass doctor, and then Rick Turner, and I would kind of consult other bass players, and I tried all this different stuff. So it was kind of this whole journey, like, how can I have that I don't want to just put the upright bass down and pick up the electric bass just because the stage volume's up. So I sort of went on this whole quest, for very basic pickups, to then I got the Rick Turner one, which is sort of designed, it's really invasive. You actually cut the bridge, you slit, you cut like 4 slots in the bridge, and you put the piezo's in there, and it's like 1,000,000 dB. It's like super powerful, So that was kind of the start of it. And then I sort of went on this other whole tangent, because I love to do with the play with the bow a lot too. And so that was, kind of doing classical and jazz a little bit when I first started upright bass, just, a few gigs here and there, but mostly like at Cabrillo and stuff. The Turner pickup sounded amazing for picking, but then for the bow, it was just like really dark. And so I started researching other bass players, and who's the guy, John Goldsby, who's he has like a whole jazz arco using the bow in jazz method book, and he plays for the WDR big band in Germany. So he was kind of like the amazing jazz big band player, but also a world-class jazz bower. And so I kind of formed I don't know if I'd say a friendship, but I started messaging him, and he was actually really nice to me. He gave me a blurb about one of the first albums I released. Really nice quote. but I was kind of asking him of like, how do you do this, and so he recommended having those clip-on mics, where you attach it to the tailpiece and it's got a little gooseneck. And he was like, that's the only really good way to do it. And so I bought one of those. What was it? It wasn't a DPA. It was, I forget. It was the other kind of popular one. I've sold it now. That was cool. It definitely got you a little more air in the sound. But then you're at this problem again where you're on stage, and you've probably been to some shows with like Keith and stuff, and where we, we'll be quiet, we'll play ballads, but we also will be ridiculously loud at times where it's like, geez, we're just a nice little acoustic band here and we're just like as loud as a rock band. So I realized that then there was going to be bleed through into the microphone. So bass player, we always like to be by the drums. Then the drums are going to come through my microphone. So I'd be running the pickup and the mic at the same time. And it wasn't really, I didn't really think that it sounded that great either, because I felt like it's designed to sort of reject some sound and reject that feedback. But then that's also rejecting all those qualities that make microphones in front of an acoustic instrument just sound perfect, and you're really hearing a representation that's clear. So I sort of ditched the mic, and I forget who was the other bass player. Witold Breck. I think he's like a Polish, sort of avant-garde Polish bass player guy, really good classical player. And I started noticing guys were running 2 pickups. So they would, and have some kind of way to blend them. And so then I was Rick Turner's been very nice to me, and Matt Bone. I feel like I was asking so much of them. And I said, okay, now, I'm coming back. I want to run 2 pickups. And I decided the Fishman full circle was it was kind of almost thin sounding and really, I don't want to say brittle, but kind of that more high end, the treble kind of side of it all. And then Turner pickup had this nice deep core to it. And so I decided to try the full circle. And I think, Witold Breck, I think, was using the full circle. And he was bowing a lot, amplified. And so I wanted to run those 2 pickups together, but I didn't want to have a bunch of plugs and junk on the floor and wall warts and all that kind of crap, and I didn't want to bring a little mixing board. So I talked to Rick, and he basically designed this whole thing for me that was an 18-volt blender box. And it's sort of, that I can plug 2 pickups into, and I can sort of blend one or the other. And there's just simple 3 knobs: volume, tone, and blend. So sometimes if I'm really playing at really loud volumes, especially the Latin jazz band, all the percussion, the drums, the horns, everything, I'll go to the Turner pickup a little more. If I'm going to maybe take a bowed solo, I might go and turn it right to the full circle a little bit more and get that sound a little bit. And then, so that was really awesome. Then I was able to run 2 pickups with this beautiful preamp. And then I wanted it on board. I kind of felt like, you see, it was ridiculous. I know. Or like I'd see like, I was definitely like going crazy.
Every one of you are like this. Every stand-up bassist I know is like this. It's just...
I'm sorry. Yeah, I bugged the shit out of those guys. Yeah, and I know, like, after it was all over, I kind of realized, like, I was like some guy who was like, I want a car, but I'd love a espresso machine in the glove box. And then I'd love in the trunk, a fold-out toilet, so I don't never eat in bed. I just had all this stuff. I was like, it's like, yeah, we can do this, but no one else wants this. Like, it's just insane. So between Rick and Matt, and Matt was sort of he actually kind of Rick made like a little beautiful plate that the pickup could mount on, this beautiful, like, I think it's like maple thing. And then Matt actually sawed the hole in the side of my bass, I know. And then I had Andy Weiss, the drummer, when he first saw it, it's like, wow, you paid people to cut holes in your bass? This was totally sacrilegious. And I'm a lefty, so I already basically, if I get an upright bass, I destroy it for the 90% of the world because I'm making it into a lefty. So like I would never want to have like a bass from like the 1800s or anything like that
Yeah.
because I feel like you're just I'm basically ruining these instruments to just do what I need them to do. But yeah, so
I'm confused when you say you're ruining them. I mean, aren't you just making a new nut and a new bridge and changing the string arrangement?
well, for an up that, but also there's more on string instruments. There's a sound post and a bass bar inside,
Oh,
which
you
are
actually have the top removed and the bass bar moved?
not symmetrical. Yeah, so
Ah.
yeah, and it's funny because yeah, when I first got this is the first upright bass I ever got here, and Paul, rest his soul, Paul Hostetter helped me get this bass, and I don't know why so many people were so nice to me. He drove me up. He probably had some other business too to do, but he drove me up to San Francisco. Gosh, what was the place? To this little, instrument, shop, to pick up this bass, and help me like literally carried it out the door for me because I didn't even know how to carry a bass yet. And so he helped me kind of choose the bass I wanted. I wanted a solid carved bass, even if it was like a lower quality solid bass. So Paul helped me get that, and he did a little fingerboard work to make it symmetrical. Did a new nut and a new bridge, and sort of flipped it around lefty for me. And I played that for a couple years, and then I had I went to this workshop with Vinny, or what's his name? Gosh darn, he's a great bass player. I can't remember his name. He plays with this guy Vinny Golio. It's kind of avant-garde jazz in Southern California. I'm forgetting his name now, but he was an amazing upright bass player, East Coast guy, and then in LA as well. And he was like hearing me play. He said, your bass is not like doing the thing it's supposed to do as like a double bass. When the sound post and bass bar are in the correct position and you pick, and it sort of resonates the note, like I guess, I'm not sure exactly, I'm probably gonna be wrong here, but something where it resonates an octave lower than the note you play. And so there's like a whole thing that happens with that. And he said, your bass is not doing that thing, and I sort of, okay. So then once again, I had, went to a local luthier and, okay, $1,000, we'll take the top off and we'll switch your bass bar and sound post around. And so then I did notice that it really has this tone. Like I can play, I can hold a bass my way if it's a right-handed strung bass. So I'm kind of playing it upside down, and I can still actually get around on it, as a lefty. I'm sure every lefty has that experience where you end up playing someone's right-handed guitar because that's just what's sitting there and you pick it up. So I know any lefty is going to have some competence playing upside down as well as strung the correct way. So times I've toured where maybe they've rented me like a right-handed upright bass, I'm still able to like play it and get the notes all right. But I started noticing like, I'm picking it the other way instead of the way like a righty would pick it, away from the sound post and kind of into the bass bar. And I know, I can play all the notes and get it, but the tone is just not happening. So it is pretty essential, to have that happen. And then once you do that, it's pretty irreversible, or you can reverse it, but you got to take the top off. So it's pretty invasive and pretty,
a friend of mine up in Petaluma, Bruce Sexauer, does a lot of work with basses, and I've watched him repair a few, and I've understood, the bass bar and the tone post and, how they work in basses and violins and everything. I never, ever imagined that you had to reverse it when you switch the hand, but it makes sense now that you've explained it. We did a podcast with James May, who has the ultratonic pickup, and he was one of the people who developed the Tonedexter, which is an IR response box that's really amazingly cool. when you get a chance, you might want to look it up because it sounds amazing on basses and cellos and violins. The Tonedexter.
Tonedexter.
And we have one of our old podcasts is with James May. It talks about it some, but next time you're ready for some advanced electronic play around with basses, you might want to look into it.
It does a very strange thing in that it will listen to the microphone and listen to the instrument at the same time, and then it takes those and mixes them up with a little Tabasco and a little cayenne, and it comes out is this really the users of it are all over it because it's such a clean acoustic sound. And we did one with James Nash from the Waybacks, and James carried a computer to get into it. For a while. He carried a laptop for a while, and he ran everything through that because that was the only way he could really, between a 10,000 seat hall and a 250 seat hall, what are you going to do? I mean, it sounds differently in the room.
Yes, yeah.
I'm so fascinated by your audio class. I think the best example that we've seen recently, everybody's seen Let It Be. Everybody's seen Get Back.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's seen it. But I just went and
I got to see the whole thing though.
Yeah, I just went and rebought Let It Be, and there's a new release of it and things like that. And when you listen to that and listen to and visually, now you're in the room with them, you hear how Martin's mic placement, his mic placement was so balanced for Ringo.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of drums on Ringo, or mics on Ringo. There's a microphone up top and there's something down below, but they're playing live with a PA system in there.
Yeah, right, huh?
They're playing live in a room with a PA system. There's no headphones. And yet, when you really critically listen to Let It Be, the drum sounds are so blended to the song.
Yeah,
and it's Ringo.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's the four of them, and really the five of them with George Martin.
Yes, for sure.
Because that is just it's brilliantly engineered, and I always thought it sounded good, but now seeing Get Back and really just realizing, holy shit.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot.
It really is. I mean, they're probably doing that with 6 mics.
That's amazing.
7 mics, 8 mics, maybe
on the entire. I think a lot of it's the instruments, the performance, and something about that synergy of actually playing together versus sort of overdubbing with the click track and all that. And yeah, I just did a section when we came back from Christmas break. We started with the drum miking. Again, it's all like a lot of intro surface level stuff, but we just miking a drum set and just the basic thing. But we looked at the what was it, Glyn Johns?
Glyn Johns, yeah.
The guy who did for like John Bonham. So
yeah.
We're watching all these videos, and amazing resource YouTube and stuff, and all these heavy metal drummers with every little tiny lug on the drum sets mic'd, and it's like a million things, and then we get over, it's like, I'm like, okay, John Bonham, the greatest, we watched a Rick Beato thing about like how to get that John Bonham, and it's like, holy moly, that's like 3 mics.
Yeah.
And that whole, like, just that, where he realized you could do the other one coming in from the side, that's going to then get the snare and everything too, and just that.
And you're really in the hands of the artist, of the drummer, because I mean, you really listen to that and you realize that, well, I don't necessarily need to mic every one of those toms,
Yeah.
And in some cases, I really want to hear the kick, but in other cases, I don't want to hear the kick hardly at all. And really, Let It Be, it's been in my car, and I've been on some drives. I went up to see Tad in Berkeley 2 weeks ago, and then I went to LA this last weekend, and I've listened to it an awful lot. And with the visual, man, that is something. I mean, I think about listening to Henley go through 50 different snare drums. You know, okay, hold on, you know, not real, you know, but it really is. I think
That's awesome.
I can't thank you enough for this conversation, Steve.
Oh no, are you kidding?
It's great. It's just great conversation. I mean, and really inside, somebody who just wants to do something really, really great, and I know you do. I mean,
no,
we should talk a little. I want to make sure that people know. First of all, are you taking online students?
not right now.
Okay.
I did teach on, like, last year I had to do my whole band director gig on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, that. And I'm actually kind of pretty sure that I'll, if I end up not doing the band director full-time thing next year, that I would like to get some private students.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of go in that direction a little bit too. So I would probably, after a certain amount of time, I would definitely be sort of advertising that I would could do some online lessons or some private students. But generally with the band director gig, it's so consuming that I've kind of, and I even tried to have some private students along with that, because I'd have, not that often, but a few times on occasion, someone would ask to take some lessons. And I tried to do it, and I just kind of realized, like, my teaching bandwidth was kind of taken up with that band director job and then all the gigs I was doing and stuff.
And people can find your music on Bandcamp.
Yes, yeah, and even, my website, just Steve Uccello, Uccello, SteveUccello.com, has a link to my Bandcamp stuff. And
to Ash on Dust, which is really fantastic.
Yes, Jeff Schmidt.
Yeah, really fantastic. Really fantastic. There's some. I've been talking to Steve about for as long as I can remember, and it still stays up there, that this guy should be writing for motion pictures.
Oh, you were so nice to me. Yeah,
this guy should really be writing for motion pictures, because his work is really organic and environmental, and you really feel it's not out there, but it's so unique that you're just going, wow, that's really sounds cool. That's really a wonderful backdrop.
It's definitely a dream of mine to do that, and that's kind of one of those other little directions of life where the teaching thing is like, I think I literally, like, the day I said yes to that job, I was like, the day before, like, I'm going to contact some film students at CSUMB, and I'm just going to see if I can, like, get some experience doing this. And then it was like the next day, all right, I'm just not going to, but I am building a library. So I have a whole little, sort of, the deadline thing. I have all this music that sort of no one's heard, that it's like my little library I'm kind of building up. And I want to try to sort of, kind of have my own little, I have like a little drone thing to it called the Uccello drone package.
Right.
Where,
which visually, to be behind something on screen, it is truly, it's peanut butter and jelly, it's just right there. And look for Steve out with Lauren Monroe and Love Army,
or the Big Love Band.
The Big Love Band is Big Love Band.
Yeah, and I think they do have something called the Big Love Army.
Yeah, I get those notifications, and things like that. But Tad.
Yeah, sounds like we're going to have a lot of links on the forum webpage for people to follow down, many rabbit holes to enjoy.
Yeah.
So are we going to let Steve go without asking him the desert island question? I mean,
you ask. I'm not going to. He lives too close to me to ask this question.
All right, Steve, looks like you got by without getting the desert island question.
Oh, is that the what food would I eat on it if I only could choose one, or what? No.
Great. What? Yeah, if you could only choose
There you go.
one.
There's a new one.
There's a new one. Yeah.
My half Italian side coming out there,
Oh,
or
boy.
like the album, like which album?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Probably Jimi Hendrix, Axis, Bold as Love.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Be
Great. We've had a lot of revolvers.
Or
Or
Miles Davis sketches of Spain, maybe.
Yeah, really. Somebody else was talking about Sketches of Spain recently that I was listening to, and he was so far out there. It was just really not what they expected to do at all. And,
Yeah.
And they went and did it. They went and did that.
Yeah, Gil Evans, the arranger on that.
Yeah.
He was a heavy cat. And in fact, there was even like, Miles and Jimi Hendrix, there was always talk of a collaboration. And I think at a later time, Gil Evans, didn't he do like a music of Hendrix?
I don't know, but
I think there's like sort of a orchestral or some kind of like with wind ensemble, something that I think he went on to do like a music of Hendrix thing.
yeah. Axis Bold as Love.
That's probably my favorite Hendrix album of all time. I mean, I love, Electric Ladyland is like, I know the sort of the definitive one, but yeah, I think Bold as Love was some reason I always, like I said, the acoustic thing I loved. And so what I loved most about Hendrix was the clean. I mean, I loved his dirty and his blues and all the super ripping stuff is cool, but my favorite of his was, One Rainy Wish or Castles Made of Sand. That really, really clean, pure kind of sound of his. That's really my favorite side.
Where would we be today if we had Jimmy? Wow, there are artists that are out there that are constantly changing, and then there are artists that are out there that are doing the 7 hits from 60,
Right.
69, but that
He'd
that
probably
must
be
have been
like doing video game music or something. Like he would be, like he would have some like he'd probably I would imagine he would embrace like all the, I don't know, even like silly stuff of like the TikTok things or stuff. Like I bet he would be all into like different little, he probably would have just progressed with everything as it progressed, and he would probably be like, whatever the next thing would be, he'd probably be already doing that before everybody.
I'd just be scared his manager would book him into the big room at Caesars for 6 weeks.
Yes.
Tad, we have a new last question.
The food?
No, where do you think Jimi Hendrix would be today? We have a new last question. This is great.
There we go.
I'm happy to have that. Steve, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. I'm honored to be as a bass player. I'm always used to sort of deferring any questions to someone else. So I really appreciate that you guys asked me to do this, and it's just it's totally high point experience for me. Thank you so much.
Maybe at some point when you're on the road, we'll do another one with you. You can fill us in on how it is to be out on the road again, and we'll get a little more in depth, find out how you mic a saw.
Contact Mike.
He's bowing. You're bowing that saw, correct?
I've used it, sometimes with the little mallet, but mostly bowing it. And
yeah. You're bowing that saw. Yeah.
it's not even a musical saw. It's like an actual hardware store. But I've done it for some just special effects and stuff.
And that's not the one you reset the neck on the mandolin with, is it?
Oh my God, that's my mandolin saga.
We won't go there. We won't go there. Steve,
epoxy. No, epoxy.
Oh yeah, epoxy. Oh no.
After I tried to take it to Griffin, and they're just like, just buy a new mandolin.
No, don't bring it in
not the
here.
best mandolin, but
Don't bring that thing in here. No.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, dude, we're not gonna fix this crappy mandolin. Like, just get it. But yeah, that and Pete Hicks, and helped me restore that whole thing. And
yeah, it was fun. It was fun watching that come up.
That was, yeah, I definitely was really happy to bring that one back from the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish you all the success and have just a fantastic afternoon.
Thank you
Great,
so much. Yeah,
great
Richard,
weekend.
Dad, you
Yeah.
guys are, this was
It
just a
was
pleasure.
fun.
Yeah,
Big
thanks.
fun, big fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been really nice to speak with you guys.
We'll catch up. Thanks so much,
All right.
everybody. Thank you so much for listening, watching, and
We hope you enjoyed this installment of the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. For more music-related fun, please join the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at scgcpf or santacruzguitarplayers.com. If you have any questions or possible podcast topics, please contact us. If you have a product or service that you feel would be of value to our listeners, please consider adding your support and keeping the coffee pot on. Contact us for more information. We ask that you hit the like, follow, bell, or bookmark buttons so we can keep you informed of upcoming podcast episodes. We hope you enjoyed Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Now it's time to go play your guitar. We hope you enjoyed this installment of the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. For more music-related fun, please join the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at scgcpf or santacruzguitarplayers.com. If you have any questions or possible podcast topics, please contact us. If you have a product or service that you feel would be of value to our listeners, please consider adding your support and keeping the coffee pot on. Contact us for more information. We ask that you hit the like, follow, bell or bookmark buttons so we can keep you informed of upcoming podcast episodes. We hope you enjoyed Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Now it's time to go play your guitar.